Karen's Lamborghini sat like a bloated goldfish in front of my ranch gate, its gaudy yellow paint screaming for attention nobody asked to give. I'd seen a lot in my years on this land, but this took the cake. Her car, her attitude, her nerve. It was a blistering Tuesday in July, the kind of day where the Texas sun bakes the earth until it cracks like an overcooked biscuit. My name's Jake Miller, and I've been running this 200-acre ranch for 2 decades, raising cattle, fixing fences, and keeping to myself. The rolling hills, HOA, a vulture circling our quiet countryside, had been a thorn in my side since they built their gated McMansion community a mile down the road. Karen Pritchard, their self-appointed queen, was the sharpest thorn of all. 50-something, with a bleach blonde bob and a wardrobe of bedazzled tracksuits stretched over her stocky frame. She waddled around like she owned every blade of grass in the county. She'd been hounding me for months, complaints about my unsightly barn, my noisy cows, even the way my old Chevy pickup lowered property values. I ignored her, mostly, until she parked her Lambo across my gate and dared me to do something about it. That morning, I'd been up since 4 a.m., hauling feed and mending a broken fence after a calf got loose. I was bone tired, my flannel shirt soaked with sweat, when I drove my truck up to the gate and saw her car squatting there like a toad. Karen stood beside it, arms crossed, her lips curled in a smirk that said she'd already won. Behind her, a handwritten note was pinned to my gate: "Move your junk pile by noon or face fines." HOA. The junk pile was my restored M4 Sherman tank, a World War II relic I'd spent 3 years fixing up as a hobby. It sat in my front pasture, gleaming under a tarp, a testament to grit and history. Karen hated it, called it an eyesore. I called it a masterpiece. "Morning, Karen," I said, stepping out of my truck, keeping my voice steady. "Mind moving your car? I've got cattle to feed." She snorted, her chins wobbling. "This is a courtesy visit, Jake. Your tank violates Code 47B of the HOA bylaws. I'm blocking this gate until you comply." Her voice dripped with the kind of smugness that makes you want to punch a wall. She gestured at her Lamborghini like it was a throne. "And don't think you can intimidate me with your redneck nonsense." I glanced at the car, then back at her. "You're on my property, Karen. Move it, or I will." Her eyes narrowed, and she stepped closer, jabbing a manicured finger at me. "You touch my car, and I'll have you sued into next century. I know people, Jake. People who can make your life hell." I didn't argue. Words don't work on folks like Karen, who think the world spins around their egos. I walked back to my truck, grabbed my radio, and called my farmhand, Tommy, who was fixing a tractor a quarter-mile away. "Bring the Sherman up to the gate," I said. Time to make a point. Karen didn't know what was coming, but the neighbors did. Old Mrs. Delaney, who lived across the road, was already out on her porch, binoculars in hand, sipping iced tea like she was watching a soap opera. Tommy, all of 19 and built like a scarecrow, pulled up in the tank 10 minutes later, its engine growling like a woken bear. The ground shook as it rolled toward the gate, its 33 tons of steel kicking up clouds of dust. Karen's smirk vanished. Her eyes went wide, and she started waving her arms like a windmill. "What the hell are you doing?" she screeched, her voice cracking. "You can't bring that thing near my car." I climbed up onto the tank, settling into the driver's seat. "Last chance. Karen, move your car." She didn't budge. Instead, she pulled out her phone, filming me, probably dreaming of viral fame on some HOA Facebook group. "This is assault," she yelled. "I'm calling the sheriff." "Go ahead," I said, revving the engine. The tank lurched forward, its treads chewing the dirt. Karen's face turned the color of sour milk. She scrambled toward her Lamborghini, fumbling with her keys. But I was done waiting. I'd warned her. I shifted the Sherman into gear and rolled straight for the gate. The tank's treads hit the Lamborghini's hood with a crunch that echoed across the valley. Metal screamed. Glass shattered. And Karen let out a wail like a banshee. The car crumpled under the tank's weight, its front end flattening like a soda can. I didn't stop until I'd cleared the gate, leaving her precious Lambo a mangled heap. Tommy hooped from the ground, and Mrs. Delaney clapped from her porch. Karen stood frozen, her phone still recording, tears streaming down her face. You monster," she sobbed, dropping to her knees in the dust. "That was a $200 000 car. And this is my land," I said, climbing down from the tank. "You don't get to bully people just because you've got money and a clipboard." The sheriff showed up an hour later. A guy named Hank who'd known my family for years. Karen was still there, ranting, her mascara running like a bad watercolor painting. She demanded I be arrested for vandalism, destruction of property, you name it. Hank just scratched his head, looking at the wrecked Lamborghini and the tank parked calmly in my pasture. "Karen, you parked on his property and refused to move," Hank said, flipping through his notepad. "Jake's within his rights to clear his own gate. Next time, don't block a man's livelihood." Karen sputtered, her face redder than a sunburned hog. "But my car, my rights. The HOA ain't got no jurisdiction here." Hank cut her off. "This ain't your gated community. Take it up in civil court if you want. But I'd think twice about messing with a man who owns a tank." She stormed off, vowing lawsuits and revenge. But I knew she'd lost her nerve. The Rolling Hills HOA sent me a few strongly worded letters after that, but they stopped short of legal action. Word got around, and Karen's reign of terror took a hit. Neighbors who'd been cowed by her for years started pushing back. Mrs. Delaney even put up a no HOA sign on her lawn, and folks cheered when they saw it. I didn't feel good about crushing her car, no, exactly. It was a hell of a thing to do, and I knew it'd cost me if she found a lawyer meaner than she was. But sometimes, you've got to draw a line in the dirt and say, no more. Karen thought she could steamroll me. My land. My life. Because she had money and a title. She learned the hard way that some things pride, grit, and a 33-ton tank didn't bend to her kind of bullying. Months later, I heard Karen sold her McMansion and moved to some condo in the city. Her Lambo was scrapped, and she never showed her face around my ranch again. The tank still sits in my pasture, a rusty old warrior that taught a tyrant a lesson. Every now and then, Tommy and I fire it up, just to keep the engine warm. Mrs. Delaney waves from her porch, and life goes on. Quieter now, the way it should be. The end.